10 really good reasons Batman hates Superman. 1. Superman is accountable to no one. Most world leaders, sports heroes, CEOs, and authority figures have someone telling them they can't act like megalomaniacs all the time. Superman, however, does not. Yeah, he's a really nice guy with good intentions, but it's frightening that the only person keeping Superman from declaring himself Earth Leader Supreme, a very real position, is Superman. Unless you count Mr. MXYZPTLK, but we doubt that he's going to make an appearance in Batman v Superman. 2. Superman's always losing his mind. Since the Man of Steel is so tough physically, his vulnerabilities are mostly mental and emotional. That means he ends up having his mind controlled like some mega-powerful puppet on a fairly regular basis. In Hush, for example, Poison Ivy seduces Sups and uses her plants to basically turn him into the world's most jealous boyfriend, determined to keep the Dark Knight away from his villainous lady friend. Batman holds his own against Sups using a convenient little chunk of kryptonite supplied by Clark Kent in case he should ever lose control, but the hassle has to be obnoxious, especially since Bruce Wayne guards his own mind with the utmost vigilance. 3. Batman doesn't respect Superman's methods. Dating back to one night in Gotham City, the two titans of DC haven't necessarily seen eye to eye about how one should fight crime. Superman sees Batman as a vigilante who lives outside the law and is just as crazy as his rogues gallery. This is proven when Batman hooks himself up to a nuclear bomb that will explode if Superman comes near him. Batman views Superman as brawn over brains, little more than a Boy Scout who can't stop smashing through buildings. 4. The Man of Steel's unchecked power. One of Batman's biggest concerns about Superman is his seemingly unlimited power. Even if Henry Cavill's Superman isn't the Silver Age anything you can do, I can do better Superman, he's still basically a god on Earth. Superman's so powerful he could literally do almost anything. At one point, he decided to hypnotize Batman into being Nightman, a character who was the same as Batman but slightly different. This made Batman feel inadequate about his substandard detecting skills and forced him to jump through a bunch of hoops to get his groove back. 5. Superman doesn't do the work. In the world of DC Comics, Batman is the world's greatest detective. He spends an unknown amount of money, time, and effort investigating and hunting criminals. Even though he's harsh with the bad guys when he finally catches up to them, Batman does the work. In contrast, Superman usually waits for a giant robot or whatever to show up and smash Metropolis before he does anything, even though he could just vaporize the giant robot planned. There's no way that sits well with Bruce. 6. Batman has serious trust issues. Batman's inability to trust anyone further than he can throw them is probably something he needs to work on. The fact that Superman believes he should be able to have friends and have a personal life drives Batman insane. Or at least makes him question the Big Blue Boy Scouts' commitment to the cause. Another example, in the Supergirl from Krypton side note, Superman has awful story titles. When Batman discovers a crash-landed Kryptonian babe in Gotham Harbor, he immediately goes into zero-tolerance mode and tries to get rid of Superman's cousin when all she really needs is some time in the Fortress of Solitude. If Batman had had his way, Supergirl would probably be in a lap somewhere instead of starring on her own show on the CW. In reality, this comes down to Batman wanting Superman to be more like him, and to have the level of distrust and paranoia that he believes a superhero should have. 7. Superman was okay with wiping Batman's memory. During the Identity Crisis storyline, Batman catches Zatanna and some other members of the law wiping Dr. Light's brain, and when he tries to stop them, his mind is wiped too. If Superman is the boss of the law, couldn't he have stopped Zatanna from wiping Bruce's mind? Or at least unwiped it? 8. Superman is essentially responsible for thousands of deaths. It's unfair to blame sweet baby Kal-El for bringing Zod and the rest of his Kryptonian soldiers to Earth to terraform the planet in Man of Steel, but that's exactly what Batman is going to do. In his crazy, go-nuts, obsessive-compulsive logic, Batman almost certainly believes that Superman is responsible for bringing the world engine to Earth in order to create a new Krypton and genetically engineer new Kryptonians. If Bruce would use the billionaire half of his brain, he'd realize that all the construction required to fix the destruction caused by Zod would mean jobs, jobs, jobs. 9. They're ideologically at odds. The concept that Batman and Superman are two sides of the same coin isn't a new one, but it's probably one of the most important topics when you're discussing whether or not these two guys could work together. Their differing styles are contrasted in Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, a seminal comic book that's a very, very big influence on Batman v Superman. Despite the fact that they're both trying to fight crime, they do so in wildly different ways. Superman tends to be clearer about what he will and won't do to stop someone and to stand with the authorities. Obviously, his stance on crime fighting has become more nuanced over time, but he's always going to be a farm boy from Kansas. On the other hand, Batman is a living, breathing, Jungian shadow. He's an outlaw, and it's hard to say where his limits are. Not only is this dichotomy apparent in his dual roles as billionaire playboy/world's greatest detective, but also in his ability to wade through the morally gray areas that come with battling villains like Joker, Two-Face, and Talia al Ghul. 10. Superman is way too sincere. It's hard to portray Superman correctly in film and television. One of the most frequent approaches basically portrays Superman as Jesus, a messianic hero sent from heaven to save the world. He is an overly sincere figure in a world that grows more cynical by the day. Batman, on the other hand, is tailor-made for our modern world. He's distrustful, bleak, sexy, and he probably eats paleo. There's not much that a cynical curmudgeon hates more than an idealist. There's no way that these two guys can get along without some basic tension. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can get notified when I put out new videos.